Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer. Everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. So we've been going through all of these motions to suppress that were filed by Bryan Kohberger's defense team in the Idaho student murder case. And I feel like we're probably halfway there at this point. We're about halfway through the listing. This next one that we're going to be doing is the cell phone data. Now, we don't have anything descriptive that we can compare. Now, this is obviously a warrant dated January 9th, so we're going to pull that up like we do in all of the videos. We give ourselves a refresher of the original warrant that they are now trying to suppress. But when it comes to anything too specific, we really only have the information that they put in the PCA for this cell phone data, as far as I can tell so far. We haven't gotten any other specifics. You know, unless you count the fact that Cy stated that all of this is exculpatory, because, you know, that is pretty specific. So this is the original warrant, and as you can see, it is dated 1/9/23, so it would have been about 9-10 days after Bryan Kohberger's arrest. This states on 1/9/23, I obtained a search warrant for data extraction from Bryan Kohberger's phone located on USB external hard drive with this serial number, and all this information is actually in the motion to suppress. The warrant was served on 1/9 in person at the Moscow Police Department Forensic Lab. The inventory was prepared. A copy of the warrant and inventory sheet were left with the drive, and the information received was placed into evidence at the Moscow Police Department. Now, I guess I find it strange that they had to get a warrant to get the information from their own forensic lab, because it's like part of what they obtained whenever they arrested him. I mean, I know procedures and however, but I still find it strange they have to serve a warrant for their own lab. Anyway. So if we go down here, you see that it's Maori, because it's always Maori. And we have USB external hard drive with the SN, and of course it's blanked out, and it just says Bryan Kohberger's phone data. We've seen this one for a long time. And all that this is what they always do. They take the phone, they plug it into a system, they download all of the information, and then they take all of that information that they just took from the phone and they put it on a USB. Now down here are the search warrant specifics that Now and Taylor's team is claiming aren't good enough. This states, but they believe the property consisting of a Seagate 2 terabyte external USB drive with serial number blank for evidence regarding the investigation into the crimes of homicide of Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin at 1122 King Road, Moscow, including data compilations relating to or containing information indicating, suggesting, or related to violence, a fight, or motive/hostility for any of the same, to include without limitation ledgers, papers, lists, books, notes, letters, calendars, diaries, tapes, photographs, auto videos, and other media or similar documents or items, computer and communication devices capable of storing electronic data, other electronic storage devices and media, and access to contents of all of the above. Records of communication, written text communications, including emails, SMS text messages, MMS messages, and other communications, including but not limited to third-party applications such as Kik, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. Contacts stored. Location information stored in any cloud account associated with the phone if said account credentials can be obtained from the forensic image of the phone. Internet history, bookmark, and or associated cloud accounts, written and audio recorded notes, or any cloud account associated with the device. Indicia of residency in or ownership of, possession of the premises and any of the above items located in or upon the following described premises located in Latah County, state of Idaho. The Moscow Police Department is they're putting the warrant in for the lab that already has the information on a third-party device from its origin. That's why I find this just kind of weird. But anyway, that's the very specifics. And I guess this is where Eliza was getting her strange verbiage that she used in the other one, in the very previous video that we did, because they mentioned that, you know, they're looking for stuff about a fight from 2, 5, 10 years ago. It was just kind of like strange wording. But I guess this is where maybe she got that from. But yeah, these are the specific things that are being asked for. But again, it's to get it from their own lab. So it's just whatever. Okay. So this starts like this, and we're going to do like we've been doing. I myself am reading the case law. I am reading the cases that they are citing. I'm not going to read over all of the amendments and all of the Constitution things and all of the anything that they are citing with case law, basically because it's the exact same ones in every single video, the exact same ones. So everything is copy and paste. We're only going through the actual specifics when it comes to these documents. Comes now Bryan C. Kohberger, by and through his attorneys of record, submits the following memorandum in support of his contemporaneously filed motion for an order suppressing all data found by law enforcement from its search of the Seagate 2 terabyte external USB drive with serial number, and then they have the full serial number, whereas in the warrant, they have it completely whited out. Now, this is the Frank's motion information where they're stating that it's going to be filed separately. It should have been filed as of yesterday, November the 18th. Now, this is also repetitive. It talks about how their base argument is the IGG because they're claiming that all of these specific things that they are wanting to suppress are pieces of fruit from a poisonous tree and they need to be thrown out because they're rotten. That's the whole argument for this. Now, here's where we get into the specifics. Facts. Pennsylvania law enforcement, along with officers from Idaho and the FBI, raided Mr. Kohberger's parents' home on December 30th of 2022. During the raid, law enforcement seized Mr. Kohberger's cell phone. After seizing the phone, FBI SSA Jeffrey Tanzola made a copy of the contents of the cell phone on a Seagate 2 terabyte external USB drive with that serial number, labeled Philadelphia RCFL. Evidence number 000434447, hereinafter USB drive. So once again, that's proving me right. Once again, because why is the FBI being the first one to get the copy of anything on Bryan Kohberger's phone if they're not an active part of the investigation, i.e. them getting the tip about the genealogy tree from the feds is not a freaking tip. It is literally investigative work product. Because that's been the whole reason why, at least the way that I've been understanding it, they've been like just able to get away with not showing the state anything. The state has had nothing to really hand over to the defense because the feds did all the freaking work. The state is literally basing their entire case off of shit that they did not even do themselves. That's why they're so lost. That's why this entire case is such a disgusting mess. And now here it is again, another whole different part of the case where we see the feds being the ones taking control. It ain't a tip. I don't want to hear nobody else say it again. On January 9th, 2023, Detective Lawrence Mowry of the Moscow Police Department requested a warrant to search the contents of the USB drive at that time stored at the forensic lab of the Moscow Police Department. So yeah, so the feds did get it. The feds are the ones that extracted it, but the feds placed it with the Moscow Police Department in their own forensic lab, but they still needed a warrant to go and get it? I need somebody in that field to explain that to me because I am confuzzled. The affidavit for the warrant was signed by Detective Mowry. However, most of the information in the warrant was cut and pasted from an affidavit originally bearing the signature of Moscow Police Department Sergeant Blaker, but according to Mowry, now the sworn statement of Corporal Payne. We're going to end up doing a compare and contrast of those. I know that there's other channels that have done it. I've done it. I just haven't done it in video, but I have like 2 binders, and in the binders, I have both of the warrants and I have stuff like it's in there. So we need to do a video. It's not very many differences. There's not very many differences at all. I've mentioned one when it comes to Ethan and Xana's timeline. There's a difference between the 2 PCAs for that, which is why it now bothers me that Payne's was the one that the public got first, whenever Blaker's was apparently the one that was the original one. Like literally Payne just did nothing but copy and paste from Blaker's. But we got the copy, the bullshit one, in our faces. Okay. The basic facts Mowry used to support the search warrant were those used to arrest Mr. Kohberger and are the subject of a Frank's motion. Additional facts related to the cell phone data are as follows. The phone was seized when Mr. Kohberger's house in Pennsylvania was searched. Data on the phone had already been extracted by the FBI. See, it was already on a third-party device. The search warrant for Mr. Kohberger's family home in Pennsylvania is also the subject of a motion to suppress. That would be the 119 Lambston, I'm sure. If the search of the house is suppressed, that will be an additional ground to suppress the phone, which is true. Which is, if the motion to suppress the DNA is granted, then everything underneath it goes away, which is all of these anyway. So yeah, they're fighting them individually. The main goal here is to get the IgG done, which is, again, interesting as shit to me, because it's the state this whole time that's been claiming they were going to file a motion to exclude it. But instead, we have the defense filing motions to exclude it by suppressing it. Both sides don't want the DNA in play. I need to remember to take my blood pressure pill this morning. Now, this is an argument where they're going to do a bunch of case law and talk about the Fourth Amendment. So I'm going to go through and read what I need to read, and you're only going to actually hear me talk about anything that is case specific. In this case, law enforcement either intentionally or recklessly, but likely intentionally, omitted exculpatory evidence. That's the first time that that's been in there. But likely intentionally. Because a lot of times whenever they're talking in court, Anna's like, I don't mean to say that blah, 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 or I don't mean to point the fingers, just because, it's all very political. But I hadn't seen this before. They snuck that one into this one. Omitted exculpatory evidence as to almost every facet of its affidavit for this warrant. The details of these omissions are explained fully in a Frank's proffer and are incorporated as if fully set forth here. Suppression is required. And then it just talks about being a violation of the Constitution. This is the same one that they always put in here. This is also the same, but it just states Mr. Kohberger has argued in a separate motion that the genetic genealogy investigation in this matter was done in violation of the Constitution. Additionally, he argues there would be no investigation into him without the original constitutional violation, which is basically the exact same thing I just said. And without IgG, there is no case, no request for his phone records, surveillance of his parents' home, no DNA taken from the garbage in his driveway, in a gated community, required to follow a trash removal ordinance. Because the IgG analysis is the origin of this matter, everything in the affidavit should be excised. Information gathered about Mr. Kohberger via previous invalid warrants must also be excised, which is all of the other ones that we've talked about and the ones we're going to talk about. The search warrant fails to command law enforcement to search the USB drive. I don't think that's true. I mean, it says what they're looking for, and obviously the investigative agency that is asking for said information is going to look for information. So, okay. The warrant in this matter fails to actually provide a command to search the USB drive. It states in the summary, there are grounds for issuing a search warrant. There are grounds to believe the USB drive for evidence regarding the investigation, including, and then list all possible types of data in the drive located in MPD's forensic lab. But this first one does state what they're looking for, and they believe this information to be in there. So this is why I can't be a lawyer. I feel like they got some specifics in there, but I also need them to prove that the DNA was obtained illegally. Because the trash can DNA is not the IgG. It's not. The IgG came off of the DNA found on the button of the knife sheath found at the crime scene. So if they're going to keep on their theory that it was planted there, then I'm going to assume that the information that was dropped off yesterday would have that proof in that. They would have their theory and their paper trail from their own investigation for how they believe Bryan's DNA would have been planted there, meaning pointing fingers at very specific people. That's the only way that that works. And they can only get that approved by proving it. They can't just ask for it and say, oh, they obtained it illegally. They have to prove that. If the judge is going to grant anything, they have to show their work. They have to give proof. I wish that stuff wasn't sealed, because this case could be solved and all this could be done and over with the second that we read the paperwork, if it's all valid. Because, I mean, damn. Them stating DNA is obtained illegally, it was planted, is a big, big speak. So they've got to prove it. They've got to back it up. I'm waiting. I want them to. This does state the warrant for the USB drive, Mr. Kohberger's cell phone, lacks appropriate particularization. It lists the following as possibly existing on the USB drive, and that's all the exact same stuff that I just read to you. To be clear then, the government which created an image or copy of Mr. Kohberger's phone and put it on a USB drive requested and received permission to search that drive for roughly 15 types of data compilations aside from the communications device capable of storing electronic data. Not only that, but you're getting it off of a third-party device, so how do you know if it's legit data? How do you know if it hasn't been messed with? How do you know if it's real? Because you didn't extract it from his phone himself. Again, you're going off of what somebody handed you, not your own experience, not your own investigative work. You have no idea if that data could have been compromised or not. No clue. It then listed separately 8 things that are obviously included within the contents of the data compilation and already requested access to. Presumably, the only reason for listing them was to get away from the only attempt the warrant made at limiting what was to be seized, information indicating, suggesting, or relating to violence, a fight, or motive hostility for any of the same. The data compilation is too broad in that it makes no attempt at defining the type of file sought, the remaining 8 in that they make no attempt to define what is to be seized. Jurisdictions across the nation, and then they go into the cabinet argument, and it's not going to be specific here for a long, long time. Now, this is where they mention the exact same verbiage from the last one that threw me for a loop. Because they're talking about, does it make sense to see if there was some hint of wanting to fight someone from 2 years prior, 5 years, or 10? What of everything else that may be relevant to what the police knew? The K-bar sheath and the Elantra. There were 2 other things that were mentioned in that one in the last document. So they edited this down to just say the K-bar and the Elantra, which I guess would mean at this point, really, that at that point, that's all they really had. They had a K-bar knife sheath that apparently does have Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the button, and an Elantra that they are claiming is Bryan Kohberger's, but that they refuse to show any actual security footage of. I don't understand that. I've never understood, A, why there was never a sketch that came out, because we sure had a bunch of sketches in the Delphi case. They didn't even try to attempt to do like a mask with just the eyebrows to see like the shape or anything like that. Not only that, but 51 terabytes of data that is apparently a whole bunch of video of the car, and you don't release a still shot? You don't release anything to be like, hey, this is the one that we're looking for. Nada? Come on now. Then they go on to talk about the Georgia case where they stated that it was deemed unconstitutional because it was lacking all of the specific information, the same argument that they went through in the last document. To conclude, the warrant issued for Mr. Kohberger's cell phone in its image state on the USB drive was unconstitutionally overboard. Law enforcement had the ability to be more specific, both as to the content and the category of the digital files it sought, and it chose not to be specific because what it wanted and what it got was a general warrant. Therefore, everything found in the search of the USB drive must be suppressed. Conclusion. Mr. Kohberger requests this court suppress all evidence obtained by police via the search of the copy of his cell phone created by the FBI. As explained, the warrant used lacked probable cause as written, given its heavy resilience on conclusions reached by law enforcement without the details necessary for the magistrate to draw is the same exact thing. I would have been arguing that there is no guarantee that the information that was given to Moscow police was true and unadulterated information because they were getting it on a third-party device. I'm just saying. But again, they prove that the FBI really did take the reins in this entire case, that they are the ones who literally handed Moscow, who literally handed Idaho, who literally handed these people everything that they are going off of. That's why they still don't have everything. That's why it took 1.5 years almost for just the autopsy reports and like the x-rays at full image size to be handed over to the defense. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But I want to know what you guys think about these details and the rest of the ones that we've gone over so far down in the comments. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you were not subscribed already. And please make sure to hit that notification bell to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.